Did you hit it from the back?
Oh my God.
Actually, from the front.
From the front?
Yeah, the back won't.
That's the way the Lord intended.
From the back?
From the front.
Good old classic missionary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, since we started there, hold on.
Yeah, people are getting all weird. Trying all these different positions. You're going to hurt yourself.
No.
Fucking sex injuries. You got to be
heathens.
Careful.
Joel Kaplan.
Oh.
Hey, thank you.
Ooh, to keep it going.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were going to start there, but.
Let me feel these real quick.
Oh, weenie ring.
Yeah. They're Johnny Cock rings.
Oh, nice.
Open up. I want to see how
he was a great attorney.
Yeah. Ooh, using his mouth.
There we go. All right. You see, one thing that annoys me about... Okay, first off, if you're listening,
yeah,
what we have in our hands from Dr. Joel Kaplan.
These are called erection rings.
Yes.
Yeah.
These silicone? Oh, yeah, these aren't going to break.
No.
I've had experiences where it's like busted. But these are
you
solid.
broke cock rings?
He flexed.
I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. I guess, right?
I felt kind of powerful when it happened too, because I looked, I was like, wait, where is it? It broke in half.
You're like, fuck yeah. That cock ring's nothing to me.
I got a pretty good one there.
Got a story?
Yeah.
Let's go.
So for anyone that knows what a Nuva ring is
that the one?
My wife's going to be so embarrassed. So it's a birth control ring that a woman can stick up there and it just hangs out. And it's just birth control.
Yeah.
One of the first couple of nights doing our thing, and I look down like a fucking ring toss. It's just swinging on my junk. And I'm like, I was like, babe, sorry, your ring. And she's like, huh? I was like, your ring's on my penis. And she's just like, oh.
You know, you stood up, you're like, yeah. Look what I have done.
It was probably my proudest moment ever. It's like,
Really amazing.
Dug that thing out of there. Because it's supposed to like get so far up there that like nobody can feel it.
Except you.
I felt it and ripped that shit out because I didn't like it.
Shovel your way down there.
With your fucking curving upward dick.
Yeah, like
Get over here. Y'all remember Mortal Kombat Scorpion? Get over here.
Yeah.
Let's go, Andrew. I'm proud.
I was happy. Yeah.
That makes me, I'm pumped for you.
She was happy.
Nice moves. You ever have like a hair that somehow is like completely wrapped around your dick? You're like, well, how in the fuck did this happen?
Oh, yeah.
Every morning I'm
like,
showering.
It's like wrapped around multiple times, like a noose or something. You're like, what the fuck's going on?
Are
Here?
you trying to kill me?
Does hair get stuck in y'all asses?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be showering. I'm just like, whoop, like just hair just rides my shit, and I just find multiple.
It feels really, really weird.
It kind of feels. I mean, it kind of feels kind of good, but it's also
what are
slightly
they doing
just
back
weird.
there?
If you pull it too fast though, it's like like floss, like it's gonna burn you. It could potentially
sometimes it's
cut.
like connected to like lint or something.
It's got an anchor.
Crusty and whatever the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you got going on. You gotta go to the
gotta
doctor
be
for that
careful.
shit. If you got crust just building up down there, that's a problem,
Earth's
homie.
crust. Yeah.
Yeah, crust, cum, I don't know.
It's just one layer of stuff.
whatever it might be.
Beautiful way to start today's podcast.
Sorry.
Or like a long hair on your own head is really, like on your top of your regular head is really weird too. And you can't seem to get it off. You're
it runs away.
Something there and you can't get it. Once you get it though, it feels amazing.
Yeah, but those are things that you're just constantly like swiping, grabbing, like where the fuck is it? Then you grab it and it's like, it does feel good.
Just put these on top of my coffee. And nah.
See if your girl wants to play some ring toss.
Oh, but for sure put those things on before you get too excited.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't really understand that concept. I thought I had enough time. And so I was just sitting there like trying to like pry this thing and I'm like, it's like it did.
You're like, ow!
Yeah.
But guys, you guys can get this from Kaplan or you can get them from the Amazon ones are kind of finicky, but these are great. I actually love using those.
Yeah.
Just being real.
I don't need one of those.
It's because you're just
I don't need one of those pumps or whatever. But
yeah, TRT.
got a question
man.
for you guys. Do they work?
The pumps.
Yeah, the pump.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Okay.
I think we have enough confirmation of that at this point.
Yeah.
I haven't used mine in a while, just being real, but
You just pump it and pump it and pump it and pump it.
okay, honestly, though, for everyone who has purchased a pump, please follow the guidelines. Do not go over the red line on that pump
Yeah,
because you're not
grab
supposed
that.
to pump it too high.
Grab that book
Barometric-
right there. It's in the
barometric
middle
pressure.
slot. Yeah.
The pump guide.
Yeah. So when you get it, you'll get a pump guide.
And hanging
digital.
upside down is advanced techniques.
No,
That Nsima
yeah.
does. Don't try that.
No, because he needs to get extra blood flow, and there's just not enough
Exactly.
unless you're upside down.
Yeah.
Exactly. But please, just be safe out here, boys.
Yeah.
Be safe out here.
Anyway, shifting gears, let's see if we can bring up that clip of Bumstead showing the squats. I thought it was pretty cool.
Where'd it go? There it is.
Just kind of showing, like, people always have questions about stance, so he was talking about squat stance.
All right, so not the CB4 video. Okay.
It's a narrow stance or a wide stance. It's super easy. All you have to do is start narrow, pull your knee straight up in front of your body, and if you get stuck at like 90 degrees or a little bit over, then you probably shouldn't be squatting in a narrow stance. But if you can pull your knee all the way up and touch your chest, deeper than 90 degrees, then you're good to squat in a narrow stance. To see if you should be squatting in a wider stance, you want to pull your leg out to the side, do the same kind of test. Pull your knee up to your chest. Again, if you get stuck at 90 degrees,
Look at those
you probably shouldn't be
quads.
squatting
Sheesh.
forward. If you can pull it all the way up and touch your chest, then you can squat in a wider
How
stance.
easy he did that.
Personally, I can do either because I have really mobile hips. Some people's hips are either set wide or narrow, so you need to figure out what the best way to squat is. Squatting with
Personally, for me, it doesn't matter because I'm fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm God. That's all there is to it. I find it funny because I don't even think he was trying to sound cocky.
he's not trying to.
He was just like, I can do both. But for all of you guys, you might have
You
to
will
do one
find
or
that you can't.
For you amateurs.
Oh God, I don't. Okay, we got to come back to this, but this past week and a half or 2 weeks has been kind of crazy as far as basketball and soccer, because soccer, obviously you had Messi in the World Cup, right? That was insane. That World Cup game was probably the best World Cup game of all time. But then y'all, I don't even watch basketball, but have you guys know about this guy Luka Doncic?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He had a
yeah.
he's 23 years old. I think who are they playing? Who was
The one where he like took
Magic
the ball and
What team
just
is
tied
he?
it in the middle of
he's on
air.
the Denver.
Oh.
Is it Denver? No, he's on Magic. He's on the Magic.
No.
No, he's the team with the horse.
The Dallas
Mavericks. See, I knew it was a team with a D, but I was like, he's not on the Nuggets. That doesn't make any sense. All right, so Luka's on the Dallas Mavericks, and he had a
scored.
60-20-10 game.
Yeah.
It's never been done, but
60-21.
it was literally magical
60
because
points, 21 assists or
rebounds?
rebounds?
yeah, 20
sorry,
20
I might have
rebounds,
fucked that up. Hold
10
on.
assists. Yeah, 60-20-10. But what happened was at the very end of the game,
It's fucking massive.
to tie it up, he had to score or he had to miss a free throw. Then at literally the last 2 seconds, he caught the ball midair, tossed it while midair at the buzzer and tied the game, then proceeded to score 6 more points and win the game. It was literally
Dude's a
like
freak.
it was insane. It's probably one of the craziest games of like basketball I've ever seen highlights of, because I didn't see the full game.
Dude, and
So athletic. It's fucking
so
crazy.
here it is.
No, that's
no?
not it. It's coming up. Or
No, it'll come up. Wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be here somewhere.
but guys, in this podcast, we're gonna. Okay, is this?
I don't know. Let's see.
No, this is
No.
overtime, dog.
I missed it then.
Anyway,
Oh, fuck it.
unfortunate. We'll find that at some point. But in this podcast, pretty much what we were going to get into was this year's been crazy.
What about that dude that took like 12 steps across the court?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
What the hell?
Yeah, man.
What's going on with that guy?
Giannis is insane.
There it is.
Oh, watch this. Okay, we got to rewind.
Well, you got to see like the whole setup. This
Yeah.
guy, I mean, again, this is like NBA 2K shit right here. But watch this finish, Mark.
I think it's amazing how fucking big these guys
Rebound in and the foul.
All right, it's 15.4 seconds.
are. Like, what is this guy, like 6'9" or something?
Luka's probably like 6'6", 6'7".
Oh, okay.
Okay, here, watch. Boom, boom.
Oh, my God.
Last second, he ties up the game, and then they proceed to win.
Wow.
Like, I think someone did the
He
stats.
did that kind of like in one stroke. You know, he missed it and
Yeah.
jumped and shot.
He scored 9 points in the last 33 seconds of the
Oh,
game to
wow.
tie it up, and then went into overtime and won. It's. I think they did statistics of like the amount of times. This has literally never happened, but there have been 13,000 instances, or more than 13,000 instances, where a game like this has happened, where like a team has been down by 9 and they've never been able to win. So this is like the only time someone's ever been able to do that. And he's 23 years old.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was 23.
23 years old. Yeah.
And how fucked up is it that the Kings are finally doing really good and I'm like not paying attention anymore?
That's
After the years of watching them
Well, you're
play
doing
like shit.
jujitsu and you're killing it. Now. You don't have time to pay
I
attention.
know,
to
I don't
fucking
have
Kings.
time, but
There you go.
that sucks.
You're making your own story.
Mm-hmm.
You got your own record.
Yeah.
You're not worried about the Kings being over 500 for the first time in 20 years.
I know, dude. Might even be longer.
That guy that we were just showing, what was his name again?
Luka Doncic.
He, it's like how much weight room time does that guy, does that guy look like does he look like a big weight room guy? Like I'm sure he exercises a bunch outside of just playing basketball, but there's so many other factors that come into play when you're talking about athleticism. And I think something that we can kind of start to discuss today, we can get into some of the things that we found, but we can also maybe for a moment just talk about, do we think there's like some detriment to strength training? And if so, like what would be the detriment? I was watching something that Paul Chek, I sent you guys a clip of Paul Chek yesterday, and Paul was talking about how, working particular muscles, like doing stuff in isolation over periods of time without other movement, can potentially cause someone to get tight. And when you get tight in those areas, you end up with a lot of restriction a lot of times. And this isn't always, but you'll end up with a lot of restriction. And you may also end up with areas that you'll need to work out via like myofascial release. And then people try to stretch these areas and they can be difficult and tricky to stretch. Range of motion alone is probably not going to solve a lot of people's problems when their back is in a lot of pain or their shoulders in a lot of pain. Stretching can help every once in a while. It completely helps somebody and alleviates the tension and pressure that they have. But it can kind of get complicated because the lifting that we're doing can be great, but I think sometimes we're like, if you're to think about just something like a bench press, you're asking yourself a lot of times for men that have just a reasonable amount of strength, they might be able to do their body weight for 5 to 10 reps on a bench press. They weigh 200 pounds. They might be able to bench press their own body weight for a handful of reps. Sounds reasonable, but that's kind of that's a lot of extra weight on you. If you weigh 200 pounds and you're squatting 200 pounds, again, that's kind of a lot of extra weight. Picture like if you were trying to run with like a 200-pound weight vest, you'd be like, oh my God, I would never even entertain that because I would hurt myself. And so sometimes some of these things that we do in the gym, for some reason, we don't really recognize that even though they can be super beneficial, maybe there's some negatives to it. And maybe we don't really have to experience any of the negatives if we mix in some other stuff and we're just cautious with what we're doing.
Absolutely. The big thing too, that's kind of been a big shift this year was kind of not stopping doing those movements totally, but I've definitely decreased my frequency of doing squatting, benching, deadlifting, and I've kind of opted in for movements that would allow me to get into deeper ranges of motion and maybe incorporate my full body into the movement more so. Because, for example, you can squat 400 something pounds and you can squat to depth, but if that's the only thing you're focusing on, it impacts the spine. So like you're having this like spinal shit going on where you're doing that. You're moving a lot of load, but it doesn't allow you to necessarily move better if that's the main thing you're focusing on. A big shift has been like doing more stuff with dumbbells, kettlebells, cables that have allowed me to like move into deeper ranges of motion, more awkward type of positions. And what I've found is that for like my ability to move in those ranges of motion without like in jiu-jitsu or in running, my body has felt better. My body hasn't felt nearly as stiff. I have freedom of movement in all types of ranges now just because I still do those movements here and there, but I have transitioned into allowing myself to get into weirder ranges with a lot of other different things. And these are things that me in the past, if I saw somebody doing this in the gym, I would have said this person probably doesn't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Or this person's that's like weird functional training that doesn't make sense. Why don't they just do compound movements? I'd have been the guy to say that.
Right.
But after experiencing it and doing it for a while and seeing the changes it's brought me with my ability to move and the way I feel, I don't know if, I don't know if I've been training the best way for so many years. Maybe for bodybuilding and powerlifting, that was great. But for jiu-jitsu, running, being able to move better, sprint, run, jump, roll, there's better ways to go about it.
And we've talked on this podcast many times before about having a capacity. You should probably have a capacity to do certain things. So if you currently cannot squat your own body weight or deadlift your own body weight, it might be something to investigate. Well, how do you investigate it, or how do you look into it? How do you work on it? Well, you'll probably have to work on it in a way it's going to take you much longer. If you're doing jiu-jitsu simultaneously or doing another sport simultaneously, it might take you longer because you have another sport that you have to think about. So your 5x5 with 185 pounds on a deadlift, followed by some RDLs, followed by some step-ups, followed by some farmer's carries, all in relation to trying to make this lift a little stronger, this deadlift, that might be a little too much for you. You might have to, you deadlift maybe once a week or maybe even once every other week, but you're addressing the deadlift throughout the week via some other exercises. You know, Louis Simmons' conjugate system, West Side barbell type stuff might make a lot of sense there. Things like kettlebell swings are going to, even though, 3 sets of 12 of a kettlebell swing, you're thinking like, how in the world is that going to help me to deadlift more weight? Well, your lower back will have more capacity. Your work capacity is increased. You'll be able to recover from your workouts a little bit easier. When you do get sore or do a lot of work on a particular deadlift day, you'll be able to kind of just swipe it off your shoulder like it's not a big deal because your work capacity is improved. So if you're somebody that's trying to get stronger while simultaneously doing something else, you can still do it. It just might take you a little longer. And Nsima, what was the reason for your departure from some of the movements, the way that you were doing the movements? Like, for example, if you did a deadlift workout that was a kind of old school Nsima deadlift workout where you maybe did a 3x3 or something like that, what effects would that style of training have on your jiu-jitsu? And if it had any negatives, were there things that you did that assisted you through that process to make it not be such a negative?
One thing I think is I don't think that I realized how stiff I felt with certain things. Do you remember when you started doing some FP stuff and you were taking a look at my lower back and you were telling me if you can, you want to try to get more movement there. Like you want to loosen this area up. In my head, I was like, but my lower back moves just fine. But up until that point, every now and then, like every few months, I'd end up tweaking a little something in my lower back in the same exact spot over time. And it was somewhat infuriating because I'd be feeling good, I'd be rolling good, tweak, right? It would heal up in maybe a week. I'd go back to doing my lifts. They'd be strong, I'd be good. But that little tweak kept happening. And it wasn't until I started doing more things like Jefferson curls, seated good mornings, doing things that would allow me to just have a lot of bend and movement with that lower back with load, that I then started, it kind of opened up an ability for me to just quickly bend, come back, do things explosively in those, I guess, what most people in strength would say that's a dangerous position for your lower back. It wasn't until I started venturing into that, lifting with that, and doing things almost explosively from those positions where I started to be like, wow, like even though I was flexible and it's not like I was super stiff, I still had this much more capacity in that area, right? So for me, instead of like just doing a deadlift workout where maybe I do deadlifts at 70% or something, and then I move to something else that's rigid, I'll do some deadlifts. Maybe not with the barbell. I might do some kettlebell stuff, or maybe I'll do a barbell deadlift, but I'll then use the cable to stretch me out. I'll do things like, I'll do rows in different positions, but I'll allow my arm to come all the way out and I'll come all the way back, and I might allow myself to like bend at my lower back when doing rows, and I'll increase that load. But I use the cables to pull my body into really long positions, and then using strength in those long positions, I'll bring myself back. And the main goal, and the thing that I think has helped me the most this year with my overall movement, has been using weight to stretch, because now it's not just that you're stretching yourself, or you're doing PNF or doing any of those movements, just normal stretches. You're using load to pull your body into really long, disadvantageous positions, and then your body is strong enough to bring that back. So it's stretching, It's causing physical change, and I think it actually causes that change faster. But now you're getting stronger at the same time. So I think the big shift has just been not focusing on, okay, this is the right form for a squat. Sometimes I'll do squat with a barbell, but in a horse stance. So I'll have my legs super wide, almost in like a deadlift stance, and I'll squat all as low as I can with a moderate load. But moving in and out of that position, my body's comfortable where it's like, okay, you can do 185 with a super wide position. Your adductors are strong enough. Your glutes are strong enough. Everything's strong enough to go in and out of those positions safely. And that translates really well into athletic movement versus just doing a low bar squat, multiple reps the same way all the time.
I think, for the listeners, that are like, well, I don't really care about jiu-jitsu, or I don't care about running, or I don't care about doing anything else. I just love to lift.
Yeah.
I would still challenge you to examine how you move on a day-to-day basis. And what's it like when you drop something on the ground? What's it like when you put your shoes on? What's it like when you get out of your car? Are there areas in your day where you're maybe you're just so accustomed to it that you don't even realize how compromised you may be? Because you may have just accepted these movement patterns. You may have accepted the fact that you're going to move slow from Tuesday to Thursday because you deadlift on Monday. But it doesn't have to really be that way. It may have to be that way. It may make some sense if you're getting ready for a competition. There might be a time where, hey, you got to be like a little beat up here and there. But for the most part, I think of someone like John Hack and some of these guys that have really pushed the boundaries. And these guys are, they have great genetics and stuff like that, but they have prepared their bodies to adapt and be able to adopt the type of training that they're doing. And when we had him here, and we saw him, walking around and moving around, it's not like he was crazy mobile or anything, but he didn't seem to be in lots of pain. He didn't seem to be suffering. So if you have to grab a hold of your bed and fucking squeeze the sheets just to reach down and grab some socks that are on the fucking ground, I just want you to kind of think about maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a better route. Maybe rather than eliminating the exercises altogether, maybe you can start to try some of the things that we've introduced on this show. And I know for myself, probably the most transformative thing of 2022 for me, and even moving forward, is to get your head over your foot when you're walking, in your gait, when you get your head over your foot when you're walking and when you're running. Occasionally it's something I'll get stuck and I'll kind of forget what I'm doing, or I'll kind of lose sight of it or lose track of it. But when I go back to it, it tends to relax me. It tends to propel me forward more so than I thought. I didn't have any, I never had any previous awareness of this at all until David Weck brought it up to me.
Do you know if your old walking footage, were you walking differently? I don't know.
Well, David Weck, he says, don't get caught in the middle. And that's something that really stuck with me too. Don't get caught in the middle. He's like, if you're in the middle, you're going to get hurt. And thinking about lifting and just movement in general, Andrew knows this one, getting your kid out of their car seat. The car seat is way out. If you ever tried to get groceries sometimes out of somewhere in your car, and there's something else in the way, and you got to kind of get this package or this box, and then you have to kind of lift it, and there's space between you and your hips are back and stuff. It's all lower back. It's a funny position to be in, but you're literally kind of stuck in the middle. And some of the things I've been learning with functional patterns, some of the things from Goda, and just having more body awareness and being able to feel my body better. When I go to do something like that, I'm like, what else can I engage to pick this up? Now it sounds kind of silly, because it's a box that weighs 12 pounds or something like that. It's not something super heavy, or if it's, in Andrew's case, if it's his kid, it's not like his kid weighs 700 pounds or anything, but it's heavy, right? And so you have to, I'm thinking shit, I can actually, to get this package, I could actually squeeze my pecs together. I can flex my pecs and then I can kind of pick it up. Or I can lower a shoulder and then kind of pick it up from there. So my walk has definitely changed quite a bit.
More swag these days.
Yeah, I have a little bit longer of a gait. That's something that you don't want to try to force or push. But I didn't know anything about the shoulders. I didn't realize your shoulders should be going up and down. You won't see it much. You won't notice it much on somebody. But your shoulder will lower and raise as you go back and forth. And when you're running, you'll see this in every person that runs. You'll see some, especially those that move fast. So for me, it's been a huge improvement and it's been monumental. But I think one of the reasons why I was stuck and not moving that way previously was because all of my focus was just on lifting weights and trying to lift more weight. So I'm not blaming lifting weights on anything. I love lifting weights. It will always be part of my life. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, all these things will always be a part of my life.
Yeah.
However, how do we do it, and how do we do it for a long time without it really having hardly any negative effects on us, to where we look healthy, we move healthy, where you're like, fuck, man, did that guy really just deadlift 700 the other day for some reps, and now he's totally fine? Now he's in this fucking jiu-jitsu class tearing people up. You're like, what? Or whatever it might be, you know? For me, the weights aren't that big, but I ran 8 miles yesterday. Half of it was hills. I ran on the beach for 4 miles. I ran hills for 4 miles. And it was fucking easy. It was really easy. It felt
crazy, dude.
It felt incredible. And I ran today and I did sprints while I was running, and that felt good too. A minute intervals, you know, probably running 300 or 400 meters each time. It's like, it's a lot of work.
What concepts come to like your mind that you would, you know, because if you're focusing on powerlifting, keep focusing on powerlifting. I'm not telling you to switch. Or if you're focusing on bodybuilding, keep focusing on bodybuilding. But what would you suggest to somebody to add into their routine or into the way they lift that will help them not have to sacrifice the way they move for gaining a lot of muscle or gaining a lot of strength? Because like when we think about it, we spend a certain amount of time in the gym, but then we have life. So we have to bend down and tie our shoes. We have to move around and do things. And I think most people would like to be able to do all those things while feeling really good, rather than feeling like they're locked inside of their body and they can't do something because their body doesn't feel good enough to do it.
I don't like restriction. You know, I don't think it's a good place to be. So if you can't just randomly pop down into a squat and just hang out down there at the bottom for more than like 60 seconds, and you overdid something. Like you, and also you might be in a place where you're already compromised and you might have to work on this for a while. Like for one person, they may have to work on getting down to the bottom of a squat for like months or maybe even years to some extent. Yep. But I want people to think about restriction. And this is easy thing to think about when you're talking about like the cold plunge. Like, I don't want to get in there. Why? Well, it's fucking cold. Well, what's cold? Cold is kind of as big a deal as you make it out to be in your head. You know, but it can be restrictive. I don't want to go outside because it's raining. It's like, well, okay, it's like it's wet. You know, it kind of sucks, right? But I think there's things that we're trapped. We're trapped inside of our own body, and our body becomes a little bit of a prison because we're a prisoner to the pain that we have, and we don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. I know some people who've talked about depression and their hygiene falls off. They're like, I haven't showered as much as normal. I haven't taken care of myself as much. I'm not brushing my hair and my teeth. And it's sad. It's a sad thing that can happen to people, but it's because the thoughts in their head have started to take over and they don't want to do even the simplest task because they kind of don't feel like it. What about when pain gets a hold of you? Like pain is really, Andrew, with your back. I mean, you must be over there thinking of all kinds of stuff right now. I mean, maybe sex with your wife, maybe like all these things that you're normally excited about or pumped about. Go outside, play with your kids, throw around football at Thanksgiving, or having people over. I really don't want to have a bunch of people over the house because then I got to clean the house and fucking back hurts and like you're grumpy and grouchy, and it's just like it could be a big cascade of stuff. So I would really like to help people. I'd like to help more people get out of pain, and I think there's a bunch of different things you can do. Number one is to question the style of training that you're doing. Like, if you're in pain right now, something that you're doing is not working correctly. Something that you're doing is not working correctly. Something maybe went, quote unquote, like haywire in your training. That can happen. And if you're fighting like you guys are, well, fuck, you guys can, someone can smash their head into your lip and you split, I mean, there's like certain things that are like, they're kind of accidents, right?
Yep.
So those things aside, when you're training in a weight room, it's a very, very controllable environment. And that's why you'll hear so many strength coaches say, my whole goal is just not to get anybody hurt, which isn't really actually the truth. Their goal is to make their players more resilient and more savages so they have less restriction on getting hurt. They don't mind fucking diving into the pile to knock the ball loose because they're not thinking about their shoulder kind of hurts or their neck kind of hurts because of the style of training that you chose to do. What's going through your mind, Andrew?
With the theme of like this podcast of talking about stuff that we've been kind of switching up. When it comes to pain, something I've been pondering and trying to figure out how to formulate. But for myself, and I think for some people, I had to become basically a different person. Nsima's been working with me as far as like the words I use. Mark, you've been working with me with like, what can you do? So like even with stuff that I got going on right now with jiu-jitsu, like even the way I text and tell people what's going on, in the past I'd be like, dude, I'm so wrecked. This is going to be a long time before I figure out, how to get over this. That's changed too.
And now are you a little excited by that? Like when you wake up and your fucking hands hurt and your forearms hurt and your elbows, are you kind of like, whew, that was a lot of work, but that's like, that feels awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all, we go to the gym and we talk shit about like killing it and da-da-da-da, but like here I am like actually I was joking with Charlie Zamora about this. I'm like, yeah, it's play fighting to the death. Like we're literally trying to play fight and kill each other. But we all agree that when I hit that, hit your shoulder or tap you, then you're going to stop. And that's like a mutual respect.
Hey, you're going to stop killing me, right?
Yeah. Like, right. But yeah, no, you wake up and you feel like, man, I did something, I did some really cool stuff. But again, like the way I text and tell people now, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm feeling it today. Like I'm going to work on this now or whatever it may be. You were just talking about walking before we met the guys from Goda. I walked differently, so like I'm speaking differently, I'm walking differently. Before I met Doug Brignoli, I was working out differently. So a lot of these things, if you go back a year and a half ago, I would speak differently, I would walk differently, I'd sleep differently, I'd eat differently. So it's like, okay, well, what did you do to get out of pain? It's like, I literally became a new person. So that might seem dramatic, but it's like, well, okay, so if your workouts are hurting you right now, maybe not forever, but you might have to work out differently for a little bit and then go back to what you love. Or you might, something like that happened to me, you might discover something else that you love more than squat, bench, dead. And again, I was never really good at those things, so it's different in my case. But I became a different person, the way I speak, the way I feel, the way I wake up in the morning. It's no longer, let's see what's going to hurt today. It's like I just jump out of bed and then, address things later. But it's no longer like a depressing, like the sky was always gray when I was in pain. Now it's like, dude, I can't wait to get outside and beat the sun and then watch the sun come up, like things like that. So again, it's something that I want to formulate a little bit better. But in my opinion, for my experience, in order for me to get out of pain, I had to become a new person. I had to completely change.
I think myofascial release is like really, really important. Jason Klepa has talked about this. He wrote a book about it in his, I think it's AMRAP mentality book. He talks about just, taking your phone and going to the app where there's like a stopwatch on there, just hit start, and then just five or 10 minutes you designate to something. And I think the something that I think just about anyone can benefit from is myofascial release. And I just never really, I don't know if I knew how important it was. I would do it here and there, but I didn't prescribe to it like long enough in terms of its frequency and in terms of how like long I was taking on like a particular muscle or area. I had a little something going on with my neck. My neck is still stiff from it, which it does. My neck doesn't need to be any stiffer than it already is. And I had to work through it last week, and it was really painful to like dig a softball in there, and I set the softball up in the in a doorway, in a door jamb, and then pushed myself into the ball while the ball's, digging into my back. It was just, it was crazy. And moving my neck around. But I did that. I set a timer on my phone, and I did like 6 minutes or 4 minutes on each side. I got some relief from it. I did it again a day later. I did it again a day later, and it started to get better and better. So I see Nsima always has the So Right with him. We utilize a lot of tools. We have the pivot. We have lacrosse balls. Right now we're on the Nabosu balls. We're jamming our feet. Myofascial release for the feet is really imperative. I got something, Andrew, if you look this up, I think it's called like an 8 roller. I got it off of Rogue Fitness, and it was kind of a roll of the dice. I was like, I don't know what the fuck this thing is.
It's not that little butt plug thing you got back there?
Oh, wow. Hey. Oh, yeah. Oh, you shouldn't show anybody. I don't, it's weird that they made the one side kind of brownish.
They also made sure that you could take that off just like that.
And Nsima, look at that fucking thing.
What is that?
You just slide anything
Roll
through
Recovery R8 for those who are listening.
Dude, it's a fucking death trap. It's like a bear trap. And I put it on my legs, and I go like this. I go, ah!
All right, wait, Andrew, let's see other photos of it being used. I don't see how it's used. Oh.
You just stick you can stick anything in it.
Dude, it's unbelievable.
So it has handles, and you just like roll it on?
It's completely unbelievable because you can actually like...
It just squeezes everything.
It's hard to kind of use because it squeezes you so hard. But you can also like, you can have one side like really pushing down on something. I use it a lot on my calves.
Yeah.
And as a runner, it's...
So it like gives both sides pressure. So it's like you're clamping yourself.
It's a lot of pressure from both sides. And the little rollers have these like ridges on them. They dig right into you. But anyway, myofascial release stuff, it's not comfortable, but I think it will help a lot of people. And in most cases, like whenever I text message Chris Kadowski, who we've had on the podcast, he's put his hands on all of us before, and he's the one that contributed massively to us rubbing our butts on everything in the gym.
Oh yeah.
These things have been transformative, and I'm like, Chris, my friend has a problem with their foot right here. He's like, oh, the control center for your toes is in your shin. And it's like, sounds kind of funny. It sounds kind of silly, but everybody knows that when you squeeze your forearm, the inside of your forearm, that your pinky and your ring finger kind of start to, they start to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in the shin, and the body is connected all the way through on all this stuff. So if you can get some myofascial release, you can look it up. I highly recommend Functional Patterns. They have a 10-week program. I want to say it's like $100-something. So there is a little bit of a cost associated with it. They not only give you exercises, but they take you through every myofascial release muscular thing you can think of. And I think even just for that, it's worth the payment.
I will also say though, Kelly Starrett's book on becoming a supple leopard, still, thank God that crane was swallowed. Still, like this book, if you can get this too, he has a bunch of things for different myofascial release on different parts of your body. And it's still a great book for that. Same thing with Chris Kadowski's book, The Back Pain Bible. He has a bunch of things in there. But yeah, FP has that. Starrett's book still has a lot of stuff in there that's super useful. And, when you were saying, Andrew, that you had to kind of become a different person, right? I think that also required you doing things that you didn't immediately enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think it was Stephen Pressfield who was on here. I don't know if we were talking about that with him on the podcast or if it was in one of his books, but he did mention how actually it was him. He didn't like every aspect of writing.
Oh, yeah.
But he knew what the outcome, he knew that the outcome.
He actually said he didn't like writing.
Didn't like writing. And that still
crazy.
bothers me. but he knew
It's
the
like Michael
outcome.
Jordan being like, basketball.
Steffi Cohen said she didn't like powerlifting. Remember that on the podcast?
Yeah.
She didn't like powerlifting.
Killed everybody.
Killed everyone. But the thing is we're not doing everything that we do. We don't enjoy all of it. I enjoy a lot of it. I ain't gonna lie about that. But you're probably not going to enjoy everything that we're telling you to try to do.
Like, I don't like sucking dick.
But
it's a fucking gift.
But at the end, when you like everything releases and you got all that, you know what? This is a joke that we have taken too far. We have taken this joke too far.
Take it like a half step further.
I'm gonna just
see
play
what
my
happens.
cock ring as I talk to you guys about this real quick. So as I was saying,
How come no one takes us seriously? I don't know. That'd be the goal. That'd be the goal in 2023. Be taken more seriously.
you know what? You know one thing that I think is honestly kind of cool about like how we've progressed, dog, is like I think if we look at podcasts years ago, I don't know. I had more of a stick up my ass. Like I was more reserved.
Yeah,
I think we were all a little bit more reserved. And like, look at us now. Like, what the fuck? We don't give a fuck, and I love it. I really love it. It's great.
We're having fun.
We're having fun. But you got to do some of this shit that you don't enjoy so that you feel better afterwards. You know,
You might grow to not only enjoy what you're doing, you might learn to really love it. You might learn to really, really. For me with running, I think most people can really relate. They're like, I hate running. Most people just say, right away, like, I hate it. I don't know if I ever really hated it, but I certainly wasn't very good at it. And if I tried to run even more than 100 yards, if I ran like 200 or 300 yards, it would be hard. I'd be out of breath. My legs would start to burn. I'm like, I had enough. That was like, that was far enough. That's like 30 seconds worth of, 30 or 40 seconds worth of running. And I'd just be like, that's not good. And I would just kind of labeled myself as not being good at it. I'm not good at this at all.
Yeah.
But then with a little effort over time, starts to turn into something.
Yeah,
also the rewording. I'm not good at this yet. That's the big deal, right?
And also,
there.
like, it's like you're not good at it compared to, like, what are you comparing to, and why are you comparing? Like,
You saying Bolt?
yeah, if you haven't spent any time, I think that's what we do, though. I think we're like, like, oh man, I got to go out and do some sprints, and then you watch the video and you're like, I don't sprint like that. You're like, what was that? Like, what? Ben
the Bounce just jumped from like 30 feet and he was fine. So I'm going to try it too.
Remember when you're a kid and you go out and like shoot some hoops, like you always I always felt like, when I play basketball or play football, I felt like Jerry Rice, play basketball, and you go under the hoop and you try to do a layup like Jordan. You felt like you moved similar, and if someone was to show you a video, you're like, oh.
That is interesting. Do you think, but like, since kids can pick up languages, we can pick up movements as kids a lot better too, right? And then that eventually kind of starts to fade as we get older.
I don't believe that.
No, I mean, in general, like it appears that that's what happens, right? Just like when people get older, they get weaker. Like that appears to happen. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen to us.
Yeah, some of it is there's like, you go the Andrew Huberman route and you really like study this stuff. You'll find a lot of information that probably points to it's a good idea to learn shit as a kid. But the real basics of it is just because you're kind of a clean slate. As an adult, sometimes you're not much of you're like a dirty slate.
You dirty slate.
Dirty slate. You have a lot of preconceived notions on what you can do and who you are. And you go to a gym and you're, 5'10" and you're 170 and you're like a little skinny fat, and you kind of look around and you see like everybody that you see is like way better than you, more so just because of your like mindset. There's other people there that aren't in nearly as good a shape as even that. But you're thinking like everyone knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So it makes it a little harder for you to learn just probably because of what your brain is kind of wrapped up in. But I was watching some people that is actually really cool. I love seeing like parents do shit with their kids. It's just awesome. Saw this kid surfing with his dad. There's no one on the beach. It's raining. It's cold. And here's this dad and this kid just out there like, surfing, and they're just, I don't even know what it's called, but they were just like standing on the board and like going out towards the waves, and they kept sliding, as they were doing it. And I was watching the kid like trying to learn from the dad, and he was like starting to pick it up and looked like they were having a lot of fun. And I saw this because I was running back and forth a bunch of times, so I saw them several times. And so I think sometimes like as a kid, like you have less reservations, you're not as scared. somebody might have previously have bad experiences with the ocean, so they might be like, I can't do
There's
that.
sharks and shit though.
Right. But as I was watching him do that, I was like, I think I could figure that out. Whereas like, I don't know, a year ago, I would have been like, nope, I'm just going to get hurt. You know, I would have negative preconceived notions of what it would look like for me. But what I think is a good challenge for people is, you know, if you're to say that's not for me or I'm not good at that, then the next question would be why? And it's probably just because you have no exposure to it. Whether it's speaking a different language or whether it's writing, reading, you just have a low level of exposure to it. And maybe possibly for you, you could have been dealt a bad card in that situation. It's possible where you need to do a little bit more work than the next guy, but you can't change the card that you were dealt originally, but you can trade it in over time if you fucking put in work. So I think those are all things kind of think about as you're trying to learn or pick up new things.
Yeah, one of the hardest things is to explain to somebody is like you're in pain right now, and the first couple things that you try, not only are they probably not going to work, but you're going to end up feeling worse. And it's so hard to get anybody to like even take that first step, because it's like, well, that didn't work. That made me feel worse, so I'm not going to ever try that again. Like, because there's been times where like, Mark, you'll have me try something with some of those medicine balls, and then the next day I can barely walk or whatever. But then eventually I find something else and I'm like, oh wait, but that actually worked. But if I gave up, I wouldn't be able to figure out what actually did happen, like what did work. Same thing with like the GOTA stuff at first was like very, very difficult. I'm like, I don't understand how this is going to work. But then like after a couple sets, I'm like, okay, it makes sense now. But if I didn't understand that and I didn't have the same, I don't know, if I didn't keep trying, I wouldn't have been able to find answers. And it's very difficult to relay that message.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about sleep all the time on the podcast because it's one of the biggest things that helps you with your health and fitness, your recovery, your muscle gain, your fat loss, everything. That's why we partnered with 8 Sleep for such a long time now, because the technology behind the mattress allows you to track your heart rate, the amount of times it takes you to fall asleep, your tosses and turns, your heart rate variability. It changes its temperature through the night based off how you sleep, but not only yourself, but maybe your partner on the other side of the bed. It is an amazing mattress. Andrew, how can they learn more?
Yes, head over to 8sleep.com/power project. That's 8 spelled out, EIGHT, sleep.com/power project. Along with more information, you guys will actually save $150 off of your entire order automatically. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
You know what's really cool? Every single one of our bodies have gotten younger this year. All of us.
Definitely.
You're doing fucking jujitsu and rowing with people 3 times a week. Yeah, you're feeling a little bit of stuff, but your body's changing and adapting to all the new movements you're doing.
Absolutely.
But you have gotten younger, because a year ago, fucking hell, you'd be fucking do something and your back would go and you'd be like, fuck, this happened again, right?
Yeah.
Your body's gotten younger. You are running tens of miles every single, well, actually almost every single day. And you've been running every day for 160, 70 something days
I think
now.
we're at like 131.
Okay, day 131, but you've been running every single day.
600 miles.
600 miles a year, not even a year ago, like months ago. And last year, this would not have been a thing. We couldn't, I don't know if you could have imagined that you'd be doing this. And you announced it, but you're getting ready for the Boston Marathon soon. All of I'm watching shit as far as, okay, there's this submission called the electric chair that we were drilling in class the other day.
Oh my God, I want to see
The electric
this.
chair is this submission
not on me.
where you can like, the way you tap the person is by literally their legs are going into such a high split that they tap because of the pressure in their hips. We were drilling it in class.
Oh my God.
And my partner was trying to do it to me, and I was just like, I don't feel it. And he kept like pulling my legs farther and farther apart. And I was like, I don't feel it.
Is that supposed to hurt?
And then exactly. And then he's like, oh, maybe it's because I'm not as tall as you. So I had there was a larger guy that did it to me. And I was like, I don't feel it, because now I have so much mobility and strength through the hips that I can't get submitted by the electric chair. And my body is feeling so much better than, that didn't hurt. I didn't have to tap to that. I was actually able to he kept pushing my leg up and I didn't submit because I've become more mobile and more strong in those positions.
Oh, Jesus.
There
Now
it
he's,
is.
the internal rotation of the hip there.
Yeah. Yeah. But my body's gotten younger this year. So the reason why I'm saying this is because when you do see this research, like, oh yeah, most people will be losing muscle as they get older and their hormones will get worse as they get older and this happens. All of this is based off of people who are doing average things and have average habits, right?
They're not working on it.
They're not working on
And
it.
the advantage of being a kid is that you may not have to really work on it because you're probably already mobile when you're a kid and some of those things.
Absolutely. But as an adult, I think
Can get better.
You can get better, and it's a disservice to yourself, because I used to have the kind of the mindset of like, oh, this person's been at this since they were younger, or this person's been doing this since they've been younger, so they have an advantage. And I've heard that touted by a lot of really smart people, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but I've realized as an adult, with all the new things that all of us have been able to get better at, I've realized that no, it's not kids. It's just the shit that you focus on. It's literally just the shit that you focus on and try to get better at and actually spend time to get better at. You can get better at it just like a kid. Just like a kid.
You think about there's so many different perspectives and ways of looking at it. You growing up without your dad there, that could be viewed as really negative. But you could also be like kind of grateful that I didn't develop negative habits that I see some of my friends have with anger, alcohol, things like that they maybe picked up from their dad, you know?
Yeah.
So it's all a perspective thing. It's hard to just kind of say that, you know, it's not an easy thing to do necessarily. It's really easy to think about somebody else's background and think that they had it easier than you. It came easier to them. They got it faster than you. They were able to, have a really successful business at a really young age, and it was because they knew some great people that helped them raise money, and they were able to sell their company for $100 million. And that's the excuse in your head, but none of it really. It's not helpful. It's not helpful towards you becoming better. I think it's a stop. It's a period instead of a question mark, you know, a period at the end of the sentence. Well, that guy had a bunch of investors, or his mom and dad, you know, invested in him, and so he made all this money. He didn't have to work, period. Rather than saying, that's really cool. I wonder how he got those investments. And he even got some investments from his own family, which that's not always easy to juggle. I'm going to ask him a couple questions about that, because I have an uncle who's got money who I want to hit up for a business that I want to start up. I mean, you could completely flip it upside down. The other thing that I've been thinking about more recently too is the different backgrounds that we have. So, you know, it'd be easy to say, well, I'm not 130 pounds, and so I'm not a runner, and there's a lot of great runners that are probably, you know, between the body weight of 100 male runners that are probably between 140 and like 170. 170 is probably like where some of it kind of tops out in terms of I don't even know. But in terms of the great runners that maybe run marathons, let's say. But how many marathon runners have the experience of being 330 pounds? How many marathon runners have the experience of squatting 1,000 pounds? How many people have the experience of having their body loaded up with that much weight? Maybe those experiences are big advantages for me. Maybe because I sucked at running, because I didn't do it when I was young. Maybe that's a huge advantage because I don't have as many miles on my body. There's some people that get into lifting way later, and you're like, your knees don't bother you, or this or that. Like their joints and shit aren't worn out because they didn't spend a bunch of time, fucking themselves up previously. So it's easy to just say, oh, that person's got genetics, or they got it easy because they did steroids, or they got it easy because of A or B or C.
Yep.
You know, their dad owned a gym when they were young, and so now they're in good, whatever the thing is. You could fill in the blank on all that, or you can have it more open-ended and just say, that's cool, man. I wonder how they did that. I'm going to start to ask them some questions.
Yeah. There is an advantage of starting things a little later, though. You know, like I see some people that start lifting maybe in their 20s, but like you said, they don't have the mileage on their knees, they don't have the mileage on their back and stuff, and then they start building better habits than some guys did because they started lifting when they were super young. So then, yeah, you start a little later, you have to develop a little bit, you don't have the same development, but 10 years from now, because you've been doing everything in a better, healthier way, you might be better off than the guy who's been doing it since he was 13 years old. You know what I mean?
The instincts that some people have too are really interesting because they come with a different perspective because they have a completely different background.
Yeah.
I think the great Raider, Howie Long, he played at University of Villanova. I think he just like walked onto the football field, and he's like 6'5" and like 270. He's in great shape. They're like, yep, you're on the team. We'll figure out something for you.
Damn.
He ends up being a Hall of Fame defensive end. And he was like, I went to the Raiders, and as a rookie, they started telling me about these plays that they're running, and I'm like, yeah, sounds good. I'm just going to run after the fucking quarterbacks. I have no idea what anyone's talking about. And he was athletic, and he made it work, and he screwed up here and there, but he made it work. Christian Okoye is another guy that comes to mind when you think about, like, he wasn't a football player. He didn't know anything about
Nightmare.
Yeah, he didn't know anything about football, and the linemen and stuff would be like, he would just make us laugh so hard in the huddle because he would like tell us what we're going to do, and we're like, that's not really part of the play, but sure, you know. And one of the guys was saying that he's like, linemen, be prepared for the cutback. And they're like, well, I don't even know what that means. But he's like, you know, at 265 pounds or whatever he was, he ran one way and decided just to, you know, go the complete opposite direction. Okay. And he ran like a motherfucker. So, you know, I think starting a career, you know, or starting something different that you're not used to, you're going to probably come into those things with a fresh mindset, and you might have creative ideas on how you're going to do something. And someone might say, that's not the way we do it. Like, you can't do that in skateboarding. You can't do that in downhill skiing. You know, you can't do that in this, can't do that in that. And someone's going to say, well, watch me. I think I can do it that way. And if they think they can, they might be able to.
That's some real water boy stuff with Howie Long. You know, just like, I'm just gonna go get the ball. Like, that's all I know. But yeah, like I say, like, I started very late. I started lifting at like 27 years old. So the car has very little miles, but the car was already kind of used and beat up when it started. So, you know, it's having to build up instead of the other way of like not maybe breaking down as bad. But as far as what you're saying, Mark, yeah, there were ideas I had, but I had zero confidence in following through with them. And now, like I said, after learning like the Brignoli stuff and like just everything we've been doing, that everyone will be like, that's not optimal, or that's not proven, or so-and-so did it, just do it that way, is like, I'm pretty, and then of course, you know, the stuff that happened the past couple of years, I'm going to kind of question a little bit of everything and then just try it out for myself, because like I spent too much time, you know, thinking about what other people thought about a certain workout or whatever. And now I'm just like, nah, you know what? Fuck everyone. Like, I'm going to do it this way. What you got?
You know, I mean, I like, okay. You remember that funny thing I made about JPG coaching in terms of that back row? Like, I showed that long range row where you pull and you turn your body in so your lat stretches out more when you do a row. And a bunch of people were tagging him, right? And we made that funny skit. Okay, a few months later, he made a video of the same exact row.
Really?
And it was like, you made the video of the same exact row. And I was like, cool. I saw it a few days ago. No, he did, which doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm just curious.
A movement's a movement. It's one of his recent videos. But when he was talking about it, he's like, and you feel this great stretch in the lat. And then I saw the comments of people who were just like, wow, this feels great. This is awesome. I was just like, you motherfuckers. Like, like, it's good. No, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I
but
think
they had
overall
to wait
it's a
for
good thing.
their favorite influencer to give it the okay.
There's that, but I do think it's good that people are starting to get out of the optimal shit. I think that is so good because, again, the gym has all these different implements that you can use in whatever way you feel fit, as long as your body's staying safe.
Do you lift before jiu-jitsu or after jiu-jitsu? It's like, who cares?
Do you cold plunge before or after you run, Mark?
Yeah, you try to just do it whenever you can. You can.
Yeah, I'm so happy that there are more people that are getting out of this. That's not optimal. This isn't optimal. It's more optimal for this, and this. Because like, there's so many different ways to use your body in the gym, and it's kind of dumb, in my opinion, to just focus on doing things a single way. You know, like, we were talking earlier about what can lifters do to increase their ability in the gym, their ability to move. Let's say that you're doing a dumbbell bench press and you're typically doing that. Maybe your first 2 or 3 sets, you do it with a heavy load like you usually would. And then you go with 50% or 70% of that load and you go all the way down and let that whole shit stretch out for a set or 2. That's a way that with all of your movements, you can get the benefits of moving with a limited range and a high intensity, and then lightening the load and then moving into the deepest range that your body can handle safely so that you can handle strength with all of those ranges and you're not getting in the way of any of your progress. It's just, it's good to see people are getting out of that fucking optimal mindset shit.
I think you can I think you can also make things kind of simple too. Like, you could do a bunch of stuff for your chest and you're like, well, that kind of like tightens everything up and that like flexes the muscles a certain way. But let me do a movement like dips, where I can really get that kind of bottom stretch where I can really move my body in these different positions. Well, let me try, you mentioned dumbbell bench press. Well, let me try, single arm dumbbell bench press.
Yeah.
And maybe you hold the other one at your chest as you're pressing the other one and you're kind of rotating. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you can do it. Maybe you're kind of pretending you're kind of like throwing punches. Mm-hmm. Whereas again, like maybe years ago, you would think that stuff is weird and corny and doesn't have like a good basis for anything. But if we're trying to, have like longevity and feel good about ourselves, not feel good about ourselves, but have our bodies feel good. And we're thinking about like, if you're trying to think about anything that is maybe optimal, mm-hmm. what I think we're preaching here is for you to open up the playbook and really try and examine a bunch of stuff. If you currently don't really play a sport and you mainly just lift, over time, you may get yourself in a position where you're tight because you're lifting in the similar planes all the time. And you don't have to overthink any of this stuff, but if you simply try other movements, such as dragging a sled forward and backward, figuring out some movement where you can move sideways. Maybe you do some old football drills or old drills that you used to do in baseball. Maybe you occasionally throw a baseball or throw a football. Those are all athletic maneuvers. And when it comes to the gym, maybe you just think about things that are done in some sort of twisting or rotational movements. You start to get just a small amount of that. Maybe 2 or 3 movements of that a week, I think could be really helpful rather than you just solely focusing in on a curl and just focusing on a bench and just focusing in on like a row. And furthermore, even when you are doing some standard movements, can you make them a little unconventional just by having a small change in there? So when you're doing your curls, could you be on one foot? You're doing your overhead presses, could you do it with one foot in front of the other? How can you change these exercises a little bit, just to switch them up a little bit and just get some different patterns going in your body?
Would you guys say even something as simple as keeping your mouth closed during those workouts is enough change?
That can be a really big change. Concentrating on your breathing, mm-hmm. Could be massive for some people, especially in the context of like a set. You might find that you hurt yourself a lot less if you are breathing erratically and you're doing, the stack on a seated row. That's a way to get after it, and that's a way to like do something. But I would rather see somebody control their breathing more so that the ribs and everything and the low back and everything stays healthy. And you're in a little bit of more controlled manner or controlled fashion. So yeah, exploring the breathing side of things I think is important too.
One thing that I think is super beneficial, and we'll get to something else after this, but I was just thinking when you're talking about breathing, when I went and I rolled with Mason and Jason over in San Jose, when I was rolling with Mason and this other guy, Benji, towards the end of the roll, my mouth started to open. And then I rolled with them a few times. And I was like, I'm actually breathing through my mouth a bit right now because the pace was pushed. And the only way I was able to get pushed was by putting myself in a training environment that actually pushed me, that I was with people that pushed me to another level. And I was just thinking like, for anyone listening, that first off, super training's free, right? So if you're trying to get into a training environment where there might be some people stronger than you or that you can get some different stuff and come in Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sundays, open gym. But if you're trying to get yourself to another level, you might have to change the setting of where you are and change the setting of where you're training. Because that's huge. Like when we had Steven Pressfield on, his whole put your ass where your heart wants to be, like all the changes that have happened, I know I can definitely think of myself and you. Big changes for us happened when we changed the places where we are, when we put ourselves in front of different places where opportunity came, and that same shit probably happened with you too, right? It's huge. And those changes will continue to happen as you continue to put yourself in places that will push you to another level. And I'm noticing that right now, and it's huge. It's like, this whole time when I'm training normally, I don't get pushed that much with a lot of people I train with. But there are a few people that push me, and now I'm in a different setting where I'm training with really high level people, and I'm now getting pushed again, and I know that I'm getting to another level of what I'm currently doing, and that is a big fucking deal. So whatever you're doing, try to think, what can I do right now to change and progress what I'm doing? Can I do it on my own? Can I add stuff to my training, or do I need to find a different environment that I can get to a different level? Because that's a very, very big deal.
It might be a very, very obvious and simple, easy answer. And if it is, please use that answer. But what makes you want to reach another level as far as like your jiu-jitsu? Like a lot of people would be like, oh, I'm really good here. I'm just going to keep, rolling and fucking tying people up into pretzels at my local gym, my local school. It's working. Or whatever it may be, lifting, fucking playing video games and stuff. Once people get good and they keep dominating, they enjoy that. And then when somebody else comes along that messes them up, it's like, well, it's not as fun anymore. But you are seeking out better competition, and you were purposefully putting yourself in more difficult positions and situations because you want to, I'm assuming, get better. But what is the actual like mindset behind all that? Because there's a lot of people that are seeking comfort, not discomfort right now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I started training at Super Training, it was back in 2015, and Mark invited me here. And I didn't I knew it was free, but it was after he invited me here when we met at the LA Fit Expo that I started training here. And then I wasn't the strongest guy in the gym, but I very quickly got stronger because I was then surrounded by people who helped me get better because they had different amounts of knowledge or different tips. And Mike, Marcus, right? All those different people were able to give me tools that helped me to be able to improve very quickly, right? So even though where I train currently, there are a few people that push me a bit, but I know it's not pushing me to the point where if I want to be able to compete with top level brown belts and top level black belts when I get my black belt, I have to have some time training with top level black belts. I need to understand what that pace, what the difference between me and them is. And the only way to do it isn't just to try to simulate it in my training. I can simulate it to an extent. I do a lot of specific training where I'll have training partners start in a mount, start on my back, start in an advantageous position where now they submit me and we restart, or I can escape and we continue rolling until I tap them. But even specific training a lot of the times isn't enough. But by going there and training with training the Mason and training with other guys over there, I have the goal of competing at the top level in terms of brown and black belt. So the best way for me to understand what I'm dealing with is by putting myself in those training situations, right? And I knew that is a necessary step and a necessary thing to do. Even Cassio, my coach, has been he's been encouraging me to that's why I go to a bunch of different schools in the area and try to find different people who might be able to push me, because I know that if I'm going to be trying to compete at that level, I got to try and find people who are close to or at that level and improve with them.
Yeah, they talk differently and have different ideas too when they come from different schools, right?
Yep.
And they also they might have pretty high goals too. And you might think, shit, that guy's talking about winning that guy wants to be a champion too. And I feel I rolled with him and I feel like I'm maybe on par with him or better than him. Maybe that's possible for me too. It puts stuff in your head where you're like, oh shit, or you think maybe I'm not as far away from that as I thought. I think I'm kind of close, or you'll get encouragement, or sometimes you'll get shit to work on. People will say, hey man, if you really want to pursue this, you're a little bit off in terms of these, 3 or 4 things. I think you should really work on them. You're not in good enough shape because when you get to the top level, these guys can really go, or whatever it might be. But now you at least have a game plan.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
You have a map.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm lucky in that sense that that school is, it's only 2.5 hours away, right? Because we were able to train together in the gi, and I was able to see, okay, first off, the intensity that he brought initially, I was like, people don't roll like this where at the schools I've gone to, no one has brought this type of intensity. So then as we rolled more and more, I was like, okay, I can add more in. I can push this. I can push this. And I started to push. We were able to go back and forth. I'm like, okay, so I'm not far off. It kind of, I guess, rolling with him and continue to roll over there with him and other guys there. First off, I'm going to be able to improve at a faster rate because I'm around stronger people. But But also, right now, that gave me a huge confidence boost because I didn't get wrecked. Like, I didn't get wrecked. You know what I mean? That means I'm close to where I'm looking to try to be.
I'm sure there's also other things to think about too, as people kind of climb the ladder in that field. How do you get good intense training? You know, and how much good intense training can you have? You know, like, could we do this every day, or is that like, you know, am I going to like just be way too demolished because the intensity's high? Or, you know, those guys probably know a lot of those things. They'll probably say, you know, hey, Monday and Friday, you know, we're gonna fucking go at it pretty good.
Yeah.
But we got a couple other days we're just working on, you know, the techniques and stuff like that.
You know, one thing I think is like, you know how you heard like John Jones has talked about like, oh yeah, he'd watch things and then like he said that thing about
download other people's information.
I really think that like we can all do that. Because like you've I think Joe Dispenza, and there's a bunch of people who've like done that free throw research where there's like a group of people who visualize free throws, a group of people who are practicing free throws every day, and a group of people who like, I don't know, there was another thing, but the people who were visualizing free throws did just almost as good as the people who were continuously physically practicing free throws. And like I watch so much jujitsu, and I've noticed that like I can watch certain things and then I can go do them. But it's not because I have some super talent to go watch and do. I think it's just because like I think most people can look at something and then if they try to do it, you can figure out what your body's lacking, right? And that's why we talk so much about like trying to have no bodily restriction, right? No bodily restriction and then having strength. Because if you think about this, if your body isn't restricted in any way, really, like if you can get into a bunch of different positions and your body's strong there, then what can your body not do? Your body is only limited by what your mind can think it can do at that point. It's not limited by any type of physical restriction. So if you watch somebody do something, there should be no reason that you can't do some form of it if you have minimal bodily restriction, which is why we talk about this so much. And that's what I noticed. Like by minimizing restriction in my body, I can duplicate the things that I see.
Even when you were a white belt, you were able to duplicate stuff?
No, because I didn't have the knowledge. Like I could drill things and start to understand them. But when you get to a certain point where you understand jujitsu, like you understand the foundational concepts and your body feels good because you pretty much don't have much restriction anymore, there shouldn't be anything that you can't see, drill, and do to an extent. You can do some version of it. We talked about that all the time here. But people talk about kids being able to do that. But then you see some of these athletes who are like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. But I don't think these athletes are anomalies. I just think that these athletes, again, we talk about this all the time. I just don't think that they've lost that mindset that they can do that. And most people have lost the mindset that they can do that.
Remember American Idol?
Yeah.
Those people didn't have a lot of inhibition and restriction holding them back on what they thought was good. And it's like, are they mimicking somebody singing? Are they mimicking a song? Hey, man, they're still fucking doing it. They're still doing it. And you're sitting over there in the corner with your arms folded, not participating, not, you know, so you're criticizing, you know, William Hung or whoever is that has a, you know, funny song that you, but like, again, they're actually doing it. Like they are mimicking something they heard and that's their own version of it. And so I think it's hard to get yourself out of your own way sometimes to be able to do something that someone's showing you. But I think there's a couple things going on. I think number one, I think a lot of times people get overcoached. Number two, I think people want to be overcoached, so they keep looking at their coach and they keep asking questions. I remember seeing
they think too much.
Yeah, thinking way too much.
Gotta think less.
I've had people deadlift, and then like, you know, they'll come to the top of the deadlift and they'll like look at me like I'm off to the side watching them from the side, and I'm like, you know, first of all, don't turn your neck that way while you're deadlifting. Probably not a great idea. But don't really worry about what you like. Don't worry about my critique or criticism. Like, just move the weight. You're not going to learn it today anyway. Like it's a complex movement to do at 2.5 speed or with any sort of like weight on the bar. So it's not going to, you know, what we're working on today is not going to actually happen today. We're going to make a little bit of progress, a little bit of inroad towards what you want to do. but it's like a kind of impossible for you to actually learn it today. And I was telling you guys about that book, like The Inner Game of Tennis, where the guy talks about coaching people and how he learned just basically shut the fuck up when he's coaching people and allow them to do stuff and allow them to really feel. So when you're going through exercises and when you're trying to do particular movements, it's a really good idea to like try to go inside and learn what it is you're feeling. You know, when you go for that arm bar, or when you go for a run and you're trying to remember what someone shared with you about a particular way of running or a particular thing to do, then start to feel what's inside your body and the movement pattern. And then you might be like, I think that's what they're talking about. I think I'm there. Like, what is that? What am I feeling? Is my toe going inward? Is my heel going outward? Is my arm, you know, if I'm running, is my arm coming across my body or is it going straight? Am I bringing my arm back? Is my chest up? Is my chest down? What was that feeling? You know, it's sometimes difficult to identify, especially in something like golf, or if you ever hit a baseball. If you ever smashed a baseball pretty good, you're like, if you're not great at baseball, you're like, wait, what happened? That thing just sailed pretty good and I don't feel like I did much. But you're like, man, can I mimic that again? And if you're good, you can mimic it a bunch of times. But if you're new, you're not sure exactly what happened, but try to keep playing it in your head over and over again about how it's supposed to feel. What is this? And then when you get that feeling in, that's like real learning. And that's really powerful. And you might even feel an emotion connected to it when you start to get stuff like that. You might get goosebumps. You might be emotional. Like for me, it gets me like fired up. I'm like, I think I discovered something new. And I feel like I got to go tell a bunch of people about it. I'm all pumped up and fired up. So that's been some of my experience with that.
Yeah, for me, it definitely changed this year. But with all the shit that we've learned this year, I don't think you guys changed at all. But it was your diet, right? You guys are still meat-based. You're still fairly low carb for the most part. One or
some days
two.
definitely not, but like.
But I'm saying in general, like for me, I went from very high carb, low fat to 2 meals a day with a lot of fat. You know, and that was just through like self-discovery. But yeah, you guys haven't wavered off that at all for the past 5 years. But
something I've noticed with diet, you know, especially since I've been running so much, you know, it just doesn't fucking matter at a certain point. You know, it's like I can just relax and eat a fucking sandwich here and there, or eat some pizza. I need to be careful that like Fat Mark doesn't take over and I, you know, run the Boston Marathon weighing fucking 260.
It'd be fun to see.
That'd be great to see.
Yeah, we'll figure that out at some other time.
and then at the finish line, you just squat like 800 pounds.
That would be, you know, it would be hard to do much of anything after a big run like that.
Yeah.
It's like you have to bang your wife when you get done with this race. It's like, that's going to be tough, man. Let me fuel up for a while. Yeah, that would be, I know.
But imagine like your legs are probably going to be really swollen. So all that blood flow, and then just throw on some knee wraps.
Use the cock ring,
knee wraps,
erection,
a squat suit. You'd probably be able to, I don't know, squat your body weight pretty easily.
I think so. But what I have noticed though is having a little bit of freedom in the diet. It's a little bit of a trap too, because I've mentioned this many times before. When you take up room and take up real estate in your stomach, you're kind of doing a double negative. You ate the sandwich or you ate some chips or whatever the fuck it is you ate. You took up some room for more valuable food that can go more towards your goal. And that was going to be kind of a double positive. It was going to be something that was going to be filling. It's going to be something that's satiating, satisfying, giving you the nutrients that you need. Instead, you replaced it with something that is probably not all that nutrient dense. It might have a decent amount of calories associated with it. It probably won't really fill you up that much, and it will also probably make you hungrier for more bullshit later on. So that's how people get into these like snacky patterns, and they get into these patterns of like really not having good meals. And just a really simple thing for people to do from a nutritional standpoint is when you're hungry, eat like 30 or 40 grams of protein. Every time that you get yourself hungry, eat 30 or 40 grams of protein. That should slow you down and enough in your tracks to where it's difficult for you to go outside of that too much.
Did you guys watch any of the videos? Did you actually? I know Andrew watched the videos I sent you guys in the group chat about the show Limitless. But did you watch any of the videos I sent? From
I didn't have
show?
a chance to see that. No.
Did you see the one I showed about the Ethiopian fasting people?
What? I don't think you sent that one.
I sent you guys a video because
Oh.
there's this show with Chris Hemsworth called
Oh,
Limitless.
yeah, I've seen the show.
You seen the show? Did you see the episode on fasting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you see when that 76-year-old Ethiopian man fasted for 4 days with prayer with his family and walked for 4 days
Right.
to this group and they all prayed?
They like walk to a church and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just part of their lifestyle. I sent you a video and I was like, look at this old man fasting for 4 days. Jay Feldman's a pussy. Jay Feldman's not a pussy, okay? I sent that to the boys as a joke. But
But a little bit behind the scenes look right there.
a little behind the scenes, man, I just like, God damn, I think people are just too attached to eating so often sometimes. And I
Yeah.
get it. I get, you got to fuel yourself.
I think some of those people might be like, you guys fast and you got access to all that food? They might think that too.
But some of those, actually, those people aren't necessarily starving. It's not like they're in a place where like they don't have access to food. They have access to food, but they, like I said, my grandmother, a lot of my family has fasted for
It's a
religious
practice,
reasons.
yep.
It's just a practice.
Right.
It's not a stressful thing. It's just what you do.
Right.
But here we look at it as like, oh, you're losing energy. You're causing stress. You're stressing yourself out. It's like, grow some nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be so stressful.
Like joking, but it doesn't need to be so stressful. I don't know. When I was watching that, I'm just like, God, this is so normal in so many other places in the
Well, and
world.
I think that same guy, he like hunted and like killed like a fox or a rabbit or something, right? With
That was the Maasai. They
Bow and
were,
arrow?
Yeah. He was that was some of those Maasai people. He was talking about how like, because of the increased stress, you're a little bit focused and it's beneficial for hunting. But that show Limitless, I think was pretty cool to watch some of it because I haven't finished the whole thing because it's just like, we've been doing all this shit.
Yeah.
We've been focusing on breathing. We've been doing cold. We've been doing straight. Like we've been doing all this shit. And everybody that's been listening has probably been doing some of the same shit too. So everyone's ahead of the game.
Have you guys seen that? I think he may be Scottish or Irish guy talking about cold plunging. He was talking about it to help with. He was suicidal, and he was like, I know cold is like people don't like it, but this really changed my life. He's got like video after video of him just. He's like super fired up. He's like right in front of the camera, and he's kind of like just yelling. But I think. We talk about some of these things, and I think sometimes people think that they are, I don't know, some of these things are hard to incorporate into your life or whatever it might be, but they can really change your life a lot. Even something like myofascial release, there's a lot of people in a lot of pain. And I believe that myofascial release is it's not going to solve every problem out there, but it will solve a lot of them. It will solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. And so I'd love to see more people just kind of poke around and try some of these things. And as you try them, I mean, I can think of 10 people that I know personally that would benefit a ton from cold therapy.
Absolutely.
It would fucking change. It would change their life if they could commit just a little bit to it. But at the same time, they're not going to. Like I know that they just won't. They won't embrace it. I don't even know if they'll try it.
It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
And it's natural to not want to do things that you don't find comfortable or that you can. I think there's a lot of reasons that you can create not to get into something cold. I'm not even talking about getting a cold plunge, peeps. I'm just talking about taking a cold shower.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can tell yourself not to and reasons you can tell yourself why you shouldn't. But that's why we're about trying to do things that you do find a little bit uncomfortable and you don't enjoy immediately, because we do know that on the other side of that is going to be growth. On the other side of that's going to be growth. I think one thing, we talked about it a bit in this podcast, but 2022 was also kind of like the year of the feet for us. Like real talk. I was taking a video of down on my feet because I'm just like, God, they've never been so veiny and thick and muscular and tensiony. Like even the tendons are all rippling and shit.
So
my
veiny.
feet are like that has been the biggest change on my
I could
body
picture
this
the
year.
guy across from you in jiu-jitsu, like doing this to his eyes, seeing your feet, and then he just tells the ref, like, no, I'm out. He taps before he even fights. He sees the veins in your feet.
you're just like you're watching from the stands at the top, and then his opponent's just like yelling, looking at the ref, pointing at his feet, like that ain't legal. Like just trying to make up some excuse to like fucking cancel Nsima or disqualify Nsima.
Violent feet.
Yeah, but dude, you know what's been pretty cool is like I think we've all turned into Grahams this year in a way because now I found that I've noticed it from you two also. Like you two will observe people's feet, people that come in when they take off their shoes. We all now just look at their feet to see what you
It's
packing.
so weird.
What
Just
you
look
packing
the
down
other
there?
Nose up in the air.
Yeah.
Not listening to anything this person has to say. They don't know anything about their feet.
Dude, their toes are so close together. Like, dude, they're probably a mess.
Well, I want to ask you guys first. What changes have you guys noticed with the way you move, with the way you do things because of your feet? Or has it been hype for you both?
So with this this little ball that I'm digging into my foot from the Nabosu thing, the Nabosu ball, I recommend everybody go and get it. It's amazing. It's a blue ball with spikes.
On Amazon, you can get it Neuro Ball on Amazon.
Neuro ball.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like kick the thing open somehow because it's like
It is impossible.
not easy to separate. So you got to stick your heels on it. And then you end up with a dome type shape that you can press your feet into a bunch. And there's a lot of different shit you can do on it. And then it has a tiny little black ball, which is hard and does all kinds of crazy stuff to your feet. Mm-hmm. I have a friend, and her foot is bothering her a lot when she's running. Mm-hmm. Her pinky toe on the side, on the foot that hurts, her pinky toe is very like retracted. It's like just kind of like, it's like chilling back in like the socket almost like it got jammed in there, you know? And I'm kind of looking at her feet, and her pinky toe on the other side is very kind of normal looking. This other one's jammed up. Mm. So I was like, let's have you, roll your feet out. I was like, try this ball. So she takes the ball, she's rolling on her feet, not noticing anything. I'm like, you feel anything in there that feels, like kind of hurts, but halfway feels good too, And she's like, no. She tries the other foot, doesn't feel much. Then we try to dome with the ball in half. She doesn't feel much with that. Then we get the black ball. And she's kind of rubbing the black ball. She's standing on it. She's rubbing it on the bottom of her foot. And then she starts to feel it. And her pinky toe, where it's shortened, the pinky toe is sticking outward, and the pinky toe is like moving.
Whoa.
And she's like, I don't think my pinky toe like ever moves. So again, your little control centers for these, for the tendons and ligaments and some of the stuff in the feet, they're in other spots. They're not maybe where you think they might be. But she's rolling on this spot, and she's like, holy shit. She's like, I didn't really realize that my foot hurts right there. Oh, wow. She kept pointing to the top of her foot. She's like, as my pain's in the top of my foot. And I was like, I guess that's possible. Like, could be like a tendon or something, but I was probably on the bottom of your foot. It probably has something to do with your shoes. And I've told her about her shoes like 8 months ago. I'm like, you need better shoes. Your feet need to move around better. So as her pinky toe is moving around like that, I'm like, do you think it has the ability to move around like that when you're in your shoe? She's like, no way. She's like, because she showed me her shoes, and they're too closed off at the end to allow that foot to move at all. So the stuff that we have been messing with our feet has been amazing. It's been really transformative. And for me, mashing and smashing the feet has been huge. I probably use a cold plunge like 2 or 3 times a day because like the amount of running that I'm doing, my right foot is taking a little bit more abuse than the left. And so I will mash on the ball a lot. I'll use the cold plunge a lot. And it's been awesome, but I have to like kind of like pay attention to my feet probably more so than I've ever had to before. So even at home, I have to kind of put slippers on here and there because like I don't want my feet going through a bunch of extra shit just to kind of like walk around the house and stuff like that. So it's been interesting, but keeping my feet, I guess, decompressed, I would say, via the toe spacers and via the cold therapy. That fucking roller thing is helping a lot because it gets into the whatever the fuck those things are called on the side of your legs, your perineals or whatever the fuck they're called. The calves, the shins, rolling all that stuff out has been really beneficial, and getting the right shoes and all that shit has been really helpful.
Yeah. For me, it's first and foremost just the awareness. I never paid attention to my feet. I never paid attention to my shoes. I would feel my feet hurting at the end of whether it be a photo shoot or a flight or something.
A long day of walking at the mall.
Just a long day of walking at the mall, and they would just be like, oh, like they're just tired, like tired feet. That's totally normal. But like I mentioned before, walking on those yellow like bumpy patches on the sidewalks and stuff, especially like right in front of Walmart, they have like a long strip. With shoes, that walking on that used to hurt. Like I used to actually feel that and be like, ow, ow, ow. Now I can walk on that thing barefoot if I wanted to, if it wasn't gross. But the awareness, like recognizing, like, oh, my feet feel this way for a reason. It's not just because feet get tired, feet get hurt. Like I can actually address this, and I can fix the toe splay, and kind of get some strength back in there.
Yeah.
But the overall strength of my feet, and the fact that they're not just things at the bottom of my feet that hurt all the time, because one, that's not normal, and two, they were just extremely weak. So I couldn't walk in my kitchen without being like, ow, 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 like this floor is hard. I have to go find some slippers.
Yeah,
like that's crazy to me now.
Dumb, yeah.
It's so insane. But like I'm pretty sure there's other people that feel that way, where there's like, oh, I want the memory foam slippers because they're super squishy and comfortable. I was that person too that'd be just look for the thickest pad that I can, walk on. And now it's like
nice and soft, and it makes my feet feel good.
Yeah, and I was like, but the memory foam, like it did shit. I couldn't remember anything. It did terrible for my memory, so it didn't work out that way. But my feet are getting stronger, and then a lot of the stuff that we've been doing has definitely led to an awesome introductory to jiu-jitsu. Because if I had the same weak feet, oh man, it'd be such a hard transition. Now, the tops of my feet have gotten wrecked because of mat burn, which was like the grossest thing ever. My feet, the first day of jiu-jitsu, they were so bad. But the bottoms and my toes and everything have been in good shape because of all the stuff we've been working on.
Here's another thing that's happened, like when I've been running, every once in a while, I'll just step into like a hole or something, and my ankle will go, like it's just fucking crazy. And I'm like, that shit would have taken me out before. But my feet and my ankles and my calves are like more resilient. They're a little bit more mobile. So that's not an issue. And then also, I've told you guys I'll do some stuff for my feet before I go to bed. And even by my pillow, I know this sounds silly, but I've mentioned this a million times before. By my bed, I have a pillow. And when I get up to use the bathroom, I actually step on the pillow a couple times before I walk. Because it gets it's like a cat. It's like a cat that's like kind of circling, digging and going to the bathroom. But it allows me to walk a lot easier when I go to use the restroom, just because like my weight is dispersed on my feet again, and I feel okay to walk. But rolling the feet out at night has been huge for me being able to like walk a lot better in the morning. And I never even realized that like it was mainly in my ankles. I thought it was like, I don't know, my back being tight, my body being tight. It was all on my fucking feet.
Damn.
Yeah, no, I felt the ankle stuff from waking up. But Andrew, from what you're saying, man, I think like, because you just started jiu-jitsu this year, all the things that you did, like you mentioned, it kind of helped you prepare for it. I think that's like anybody who's been doing some of this stuff with you and with us that has now wanted to start jiu-jitsu, it's like, it's a great time. It is a great time to start, because like your feet are going to be able to better handle all the barefoot stuff that you're going to be doing. If you've been following along with a lot of the range of motion and mobility stuff that we've been doing too, your body's maybe a little bit loose, a little bit more limber. So now if you start, there's less hurdles for you to get over. Because I mean, like a big thing that I've realized is like, now that my feet are stronger, they're doing more. Like not like I had a crazy amount of pain, but everything, my knees, my back, all these things feel even better because everything from the bottom is just moving better. You know what I mean? And so many people are now fixing that base. It will allow everything else that you're trying to do upstream to progress a little bit faster. It's not hype. I always see those comments of people saying, oh, this whole foot thing is hype. And then some fucking coaches on Instagram saying the feet aren't that big of a deal. I'm just like, honestly, to the coaches, I'm gonna give you a little fuck you, just a small fuck you, in love. It's a love. It's a fuck you, but I love you. And then to the people who are saying it's hype, stay doing your shit. Keep doing your same shit. It's okay. We'll keep moving forward.
It's okay.
You can. It's okay. It is okay. You can stay where you are. Move backwards if you feel like it. Stay stupid. It is your prerogative. Huh?
Dude,
Good for you.
We'd have so many more downloads if you just always spoke that way.
Should I speak like this, my friend?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this for you.
I don't know why. It works. But I'll use the car analogy. Like always, you can build the dopest car with the sickest engine, but if you're driving around on flat tires, you ain't gonna be able to do shit with it.
Very good.
So weak feet are like flat tires. Yeah. Have fun with that.
I feel like what I'm gonna do is so that it sounds nicer. I'm just gonna diss people in an African accent. Then they can't get mad.
Well,
like he's not
Fuck
from
you,
this
my
country.
He's not from this country, but he's also like an engineer in something very, very smart that he's been going to school for since he was like 8?
I'm a doctor of the art.
Dude.
From the University of the United States.
Yeah.
Of America.
Gotta watch that. Yeah.
Oh man.
What's up?
My brother I was showing him some stuff in the gym, and I think it's really easy to get caught in the patterns of utilizing the movements, the techniques, the things you're familiar with to keep you being the person that you've always been, or to try to make you more of that person. But I would like to challenge people to be more like you could still work on that because that feels comfortable and that feels good. Work on something to become completely slightly different than what you've been before. So maybe you are working on exercises in the gym that are unconventional, or maybe now you're actually powerlifting because maybe you've done a lot of single leg and single arm and kettlebell stuff, and you've done a lot of like stuff that'd be labeled as like foo-foo stuff, and now you want to actually lift barbells and things like that. Just you never tried any bodybuilding, like fucking throw some of that in the mix, and be willing to explore some of this stuff. As I was showing my brother some things, he was like, man, even just trying this movement, it was just like a really small step up I was having him do on the WEC deck. And he's like, this kind of hurts my feet. And I'm like, well, what have you been doing for your feet? And he hasn't been doing anything for his feet. So I was like, I need to get you one of those Nabosu balls. He has some other stuff that he can use too. But that's what you'll find a lot of times with people when you dig into them a little bit and say, well, what are you? What? Okay, that's interesting. Your knee hurts really bad. Did you try any myofascial release on the shin? Some people don't know about they don't know anything about it, right? So that's one thing. But if you know about it and you're not doing anything, I'd love to encourage you to start. Did you hurt your lower leg? You have access to a voodoo floss band? Can you figure out a way to get your feet up on a wall for 5 minutes a day? Like, what are you doing for the injury or the problem that you have? They're usually solvable. It could start with, listening to a podcast. It could start with listening to some shit on YouTube. Do some searches. You have a injury to your elbow, look shit up. You'll find stuff and you'll be like, oh, maybe I have tendonitis. Maybe I got that. Well, let me look up a bunch of shit on tendonitis. Start to become an expert in some of these areas. Why not? You don't need to go to the doctor necessarily. Sometimes you fucked yourself up and you might need to. But a lot of the times you're going to be able to solve your own problem. You'll be able to solve your own problem way better a lot of times than the doctor is going to be when it's just these surface area gym training, small issues that you might have, not like real serious medical issues.
Yeah. Another thing that I think's like been, and I think all of this stuff has been somewhat of a practice for us for years anyway, but I think this year, at least for me, more than anything, this has become even more of a practice because at home, I have a slant board like in the corner that I can just literally go and sit in a squat on so I can get some deep knee bending while just chilling in the living room with the dogs or my girl.
You do that a lot when you're on your laptop here at the gym. And then a lot of times you'll open up the back door and get the sunlight in when the sun's out.
Yeah, and if I'm working, I'll put my foot up on a box like Kador showed, and I'll just like get this deep hip flexion.
Let the balls breathe a bit.
Yeah, let the balls breathe a bit. But like now more than ever, even this little Nero ball, again, you guys can get the Nero ball on Amazon for $25-$30. It's cheap. But like this is causing all of us to just smash our feet more. Like if you guys go back and watch all of our podcasts this year,
everyone's fidgeting.
We're fidgeting more. And we're not trying to burn more calories, but naturally what's happening is we're burning more calories because we're doing all these little movements. All of this has become literally, we're microdosing all the time. It's almost like we're getting an exercise or working out all the time, and we're not even trying to do it. So this is something that everybody can do.
We're not even trying to be big. We're just happen to be over 230 and lean. We're not even trying.
But I think it's so sick because like Stephen Pressfield talked about the practice. Bill Maeda, when he came on, he's like, it's a practice. It's just like, this has just become a part of our lives. And it's all the stuff we do, anyone can implement that into their lives too, and it can become a part of their life without intruding on other things that you may like to do.
I like found something in my foot when we were talking with Stephen Pressfield, and then like he looked at me, he stopped talking, and I was like, didn't have anything to say, and luckily I think you said something. I looked over at you and you said something. Yeah. I was like, whew. I like found this little thing in my foot, and I was like, oh, that feels so good. A dig right there. And I'm like, what did he just say? I'm like, I don't know what I wanted to ask him.
Like I'm back in school again, man. Like not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
All righty. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Make sure you stick around for Smelly's tip before we get out of here. It's the end of 2022 by the time this comes
January
out.
1st.
It'll be the 1st. Yeah-ish.
Yeah, it'll be the 1st because New Year's
that's like
Day is the 30th. So it'll be the 2nd.
Yeah, it'll be the 2nd. So anyway, thank you, everybody, for another incredible year. A lot of shit's happened this year that I never, ever would have guessed. So really appreciate all of you. So if you guys can please drop some comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about the stuff that we covered today, and then maybe something else that you guys learned on the podcast this year. We'd love to hear that, and maybe we can kind of revisit that stuff again this year, next year, whatever year it is when you're currently listening to it. That's the year that I'm talking about. And make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already, and follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
Parasandal's still there. We have some pairs left, so if you haven't gotten yours, get it because people are digging it. And if you have your Parasandal, post that shit up. Let's see what you're looking like when you're wearing them in the gym or out on a run or whatever. At Nsima Inyang on Instagram, YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
People are asking me quite a bit about how to start running and kind of how to start anything. Is like you got to just kind of start doing it. But my main suggestion is to walk and is to just jog very, very lightly. Get your body used to your own body weight. Your own body weight is ending up on one foot. And I prefer, if you can find some stairs or some hills, to just, you can walk the stairs kind of aggressively, kind of fast, rather than like trying to really run them or to even jog them. Just do them slowly. Work on that head over foot. It happens very naturally, especially when you're going up a hill or when you're going upstairs. And if you're going to work on jogging, I would suggest that you jog for about 30 seconds and then walk for about a minute. Jog 30 seconds and walk about a minute. And if that seems too difficult, jog for 15 seconds and walk for a minute and a half. Like whatever way you got to figure it out. Maybe do 5 or 6 sets of that, 5 or 6 minutes. You got maybe 5 or 6 minutes of total kind of work time. And then over time, progress yourself from there. But start way, way easier than you think that you need to. That way you can increase the intensity as you do it over time. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.